What was your initial goal with Streamlit? Do you remember? This is Adrien, one of the Streamlit co-founders, which I met while distributing Streamlit socks at PyData Paris. And I've always wanted to chat with him about the past, the present, and the future of Streamlit. So here's our unprepared, on-the-fly chat in the streets with a handheld camera that I cannot hold still and a microphone for both of us. You have to tell me, by the way, when you need to leave, huh?
Yeah.
Everyone is using Streamlit. Even I see the Adobe, I don't know if you know the Adobe.
The demos.
They always showcase.
I know, it's so cool.
Demos.
I was talking to someone and they said, what is it, what's your company? And they're not a data scientist or whatever. So I said, okay, I'll explain to you. I was in Fiji in a tiny boat in the middle of the ocean with 3 people going snorkeling. And I talked to the woman and I said, I do a company called Streamlit. And she was like, oh my God, Streamlit? I have a data science team. We all use it. So anyway, and I was like, okay, that's good.
Are you still using Streamlit, by the way?
Of course.
What latest app you built with Streamlit you share?
Now only LLMs build my Streamlit apps. Yeah, wow. I don't write it anymore. That's not actually quite true. But it is true that now I basically start a Streamlit app with an LLM. And you usually get 200 lines of perfect Streamlit code, and then you can make changes and stuff like that.
It's LLMs are good at spitting Next.js code or Streamlit code.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually, one of the things that we wanted to do when we created Streamlit, and we started really doing it as a company, was we wanted to make sure that there was a lot of Streamlit code on GitHub. It just felt sort of obvious. That's where people are going to look at the code and it was a sign of the use of Streamlit and share ideas and so forth. And of course, what happened, which we could never have expected, is that all the LLMs are basically trained on all of GitHub. So now they speak very good Streamlit, perfect Streamlit.
It's crazy to think. I remember the time because I started using it in, I think, December 2019. Yeah. I think I saw the first tweets in October 2019. I used it 2 months later, and then Thiago kind of pulled me into the community, and I started going into the community, and then afterwards everybody was doing dashboards around COVID dashboards mostly. And now it's everyone is using it for dashboard, and I'm not using it for dashboard because I'm using.
What are you using it for?
For example, one of my latest projects is explaining GenAI and data governance stuff to non-technical oriented people. So here's the data frame, here's the column, but you don't have the right to see it. So I render it invisible in Streamlit, and so I've got a checkbox. If I check this column disappears because you don't have the role for this. So I kind of use Streamlit as an interactive lecture, interactive slide deck actually, instead of a dashboard. Yeah,
that's so cool. I mean, the dashboarding use case is sort of the dominant one right now. But I actually don't know if I think the future of Streamlit is much, much, much bigger. Because, Python is basically, it's the language in all of computer science that has the most connections to everything else.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
It has bindings for everything. The bindings usually work instantaneously. So it's all the cloud services, the machine learning tools, the data security tools, anyway. And so I've always thought the surface area of Streamlit is that. It's all of Python.
What was your initial goal with Streamlit? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was I was building things in Python and in Python code because I did machine learning and I wanted to do some data science stuff, and I wanted to play with it. And I wanted to be able to change parameters and see how what the outputs were and so forth. And I just looked around and I was like, I cannot believe there's no way to do this, And so I basically built it. And I remember my mom was like, if you're going to spend so much time on this, because I showed it to her, she's like, if you're going to spend so much time on this, you should make it into a business. I was like, no, that's not possible. There's no business here. Here we are 8 years later, acquired by Snowflake, used all over the world. So amazing,
I feel everyone knows about it. Even my students, I always talk to them about Streamlit, and 2 days later, they all use Streamlit. They tell me, because some competitors, I tried them, and it's a little too HTML style to use it. And Streamlit, I don't really care about HTML, so it's nice.
Well, that was definitely part of the idea was we wanted to create something that really felt like the code that you write as a data scientist. So even all of the UI code, it doesn't feel like now I'm writing an app, now I'm doing UI, now I'm laying things out, declarative, reactive, all this stuff. It just feels the way data code feels like. And data code is much more like runs from top to bottom. You call the function, you get the result, you do something with the result, and so on and so forth. That's the kind of code like machine learning engineers, data scientists, they all write.
Yeah.
So we thought if we could just take that code and make it a little bit, add a few decorations here and there, and suddenly you get an app. Like, wow, that's magic, basically, to turn all computation into something visual.
I always tell people, because I get a lot of questions in my YouTube comments about, can I use Streamlit with this Python package? Yeah. And I always have the same answer, which is, Streamlit is only a front end for your Python package. That's right. It doesn't really...
That's right.
It doesn't really care if it's machine learning or robotics,
right.
etc. Right. It's just beautiful UI. That's it.
That's right. And I think I think you were asking what were we thinking when we created Streamlit.
Yeah.
It was to be separate and compatible with the whole Python ecosystem. So you want to, it's so easy to think, if I replace this, and this, then I have a nice feature I can get. But actually, you want to be complementary as much as possible. It's like the classic programming separation of concerns. And so we wanted to just play well in the Python ecosystem forever and be good players inside the ecosystem.
You have a very large addressable market. Like everyone from product managers to data scientists can use it.
And now with LLMs, beyond programmers, right?
Yeah.
I think, this idea that an LLM can write 200 lines of perfect Streamlit. Well, 200 lines of Streamlit can do a lot.
Yes.
200 lines of React, maybe like a simple web page, right? But 200 lines of Streamlit is like authentication, giant, interaction, amazing things can happen. And that you can create that amount of code perfectly on the first try often with an LLM means that I think suddenly our addressable market is 10 times bigger.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I think it's very simple for Streamlit to get new entrants, new students, for example, I got a Twitter DM from a marketer guy, so he doesn't code anything.
Yeah.
And he told me I could generate PDF invoices with Streamlit. I just put my numbers, I've got my PDF, I send to my customer, and I'm very happy. So I think it's easy to grab other people.
Yeah.
And then I get the questions, but okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to change the layout, or every performance issue or styling issue. How do you usually manage those kind of questions? How do you react to those?
Yeah. I think there's sort of two schools of thought even within Streamlit. There were some people who really thought maximum customization is the only way to go, maximize the market. And then there's other people who sort of felt maybe more like Apple style, we will be opinionated. And yes, it will look like a Streamlit app, but also you will get a lot for a little, we save your mental work, and that's a good thing. And, frankly, I think it's attention, always. Streamlit is probably the most opinionated in terms of the sort of Python dashboarding tools, in terms of what the look is going to be. There's been now actually much, much more customization, but it's still quite opinionated in some ways. And yet it also seems to be, the most successful. So I think maybe we made the good trade-off.
Exactly. Yeah. You have some hardcore use cases that you saw on your site that is not dashboard related?
There were always, one of the really, really cool moments was about 2 years ago when suddenly you could use OpenAI and other LLM endpoints very easily from Python. Yeah. And that was an explosion of crazy Streamlit apps that were so fun. And it would be even something simple I'll give you a super simple example because it's 10 lines of code. You type in a sentence and then it tells you a Homer Simpson joke, right, about that sentence, okay? And then you put it on Streamlit Cloud and then it goes viral, right? Yeah. And it's 10 lines of code. So it was just little tiny twists on LLMs.
Yeah, exactly.
A little prompt, a little UI, and then an interesting idea that people love. It's
especially
so powerful.
For me, it's the idea to Streamlit app is, with Streamlit, it's the smallest path.
That's right.
If I'm using another framework, I have other things to manage with other frameworks that I won't name, or I could, but you know the framework, so I don't mind.
Yeah. I'm curious, actually. What are you seeing in the world? What are people doing now that's interesting and cool?
Interesting and cool. I'm seeing a lot of Reflex. I don't know if you know Reflex, which is a library that you can use to build advanced HTML, React, Next.js apps in Python, in pure Python. So I tried it, and people seem to be doing more advanced style, but more Next.js kind of apps, So I see people trying to replicate this in Streamlit,
right?
And I tell them, no, don't. I mean, you could build your e-commerce in Streamlit. Actually, I tried. You could. But I think a lot of people I see right now are trying to build those kind of big Next.js apps. So,
yeah.
Which is not the main idea you Streamlit for. So
Definitely. I think we started from the point of view of empowering the data scientist and empowering the machine learning engineer. Actually, because another part of the use case, and it's kind of crazy to think this now, but when we started, I was working on self-driving cars, and the engineers had to share. Okay, they were working on a computer vision, and they had to share a database of images with the program managers. So you could say, I want to see all traffic lights where the curve is like this, and there's 5 intersections or whatever, and do these kind of weird queries that you really only need it for AI. And in order to make a UI for this, you had to go to a URL and then change the URL parameters in the bar, and then you get the result, And I was just like, this is crazy. So now, we always thought, what is it that the data scientists want? What is it the ML engineer wants? And how do we make them more powerful? How do we make them not like the team that builds an e-commerce site for 10 million customers a day? We're not trying to make them more powerful.
It's a different purpose.
They're already very powerful, and they have different powers. But the data scientists and machine learning engineers have this very unique power themselves, right? To see the data, manipulate it, to train the model. We want to also give them the power to show what they're doing, and that was the goal.
Do you have a last advice for those Streamliters who are listening today, who may be starting out with Streamlit, or also starting to, go into here's the limitations, and here maybe how I should go further or deeper with Streamlit? Do you have any advice for those people?
Yeah, there's lots of technical advice you could give I don't want to go to take too long to give here, but I guess I would say the future of Streamlit in my eyes is very, very strong. Snowflake, which acquired Streamlit, is investing a lot, both their internal infrastructure. The open source release schedule is amazing. Just look at all of the new features that are coming out. Streamlit's amazing. It just keeps getting better and better and better. And so I would say feel comfortable believing in the future of Streamlit. There's a lot of good that's still coming.
Now I need to start making more videos, I guess. Thank you very much, Adrien. That was really nice.
It was an honor. Yeah, thank you so much, Vanilla.